let me try to get away from the party polls and get you to react to this, because I think the situation is now too severe to have sort of point scoring between Labour and Tory. The latest figures from Japan, let me remind all our viewers, it's the second largest economy in the world after the United States, shows that industrial production has now fallen to 1983 levels. So what it took Japan 25 years to reach in terms of production, in 5 months it's fallen back to 1983 levels. Now when that happens to the second largest economy in the world and everything in, it may be brutally realistic, to use Tessa's phrase, that politicians do have to talk about depression.
Well, this is very important and very serious, and I do think that politicians need to be realistic. One of the problems is that the people who see the figures are naturally in government. They're in the Bank of England. And there's been that feeling for months that we are not being told what they are seeing. Only a few months ago we were told that there would be growth in 2009. But 18 months ago we were told that there would be no recession at all. And whether or not the D word was a slip of the tongue or not, I agree with you. This is something which is actively being discussed at the heart of government, and the Prime Minister and the Chancellor do need to come forward to explain what it is that they mean and what steps they're going to take to avoid a depression, or if that is what the world slips into, to make sure that there are serious steps to get us out of it.
There must be a sense, Nick, in which the whole British political elite, on left and right, is now going to be propelled by events beyond their control. I've just been talking about what's been happening in Japan. We know the Chinese economy, you spoke to the Chinese Premier this week, is also in deep trouble. We have Buy America in Obamaland across the Atlantic. We have horrendous unemployment now in Spain, rising in Italy, Germany and France. We have no control over this.
We have no control. I think politicians on all sides know it. I think Tom's colleagues in the Conservative Party have gone through a realisation in the last 2 weeks, which is twofold. One, my God, we might actually be in government relatively soon, and the polls suggest they may well. But secondly, my God, what would we do? Because this is a completely different world from the one we thought we would inherit. And I think in this dispute that we're seeing up in Lindsay, which was referred to again and again, and the argument about British jobs for British workers, you are seeing the extent to which a political consensus that really lasted ever since Margaret Thatcher's day, in which New Labour was in many ways accommodating the Tory free market consensus, while of course making important changes, trying to make it fairer. That was the Tony Blair slogan, wasn't it? Social justice and economic efficiency hand in hand. But that consensus is being challenged, and it's not beginning with politicians. It's being challenged on the streets, and it's being challenged by outsiders, because in many ways those strikers and people who support them are saying, up with this we won't put. And it was one Labour MP who stood up, forgive me, I've forgotten his name, but stood up and said, this is a problem with global capitalism, he said. So you're even finding that those messages from the street are coming into the House of Commons, and inevitably it is then backbenchers, not frontbenchers often, who are saying to our frontbenchers, you're out of touch. I mean, I talked to a senior figure in the Labour Party today about this issue of how to deal with the debate about British jobs for British workers. He said, Number 10 are getting it horribly wrong. This is not a classic critic of Gordon Brown's. Peter Mandelson's getting it wrong. They don't realise that these are genuine grievances. Mustn't leave, just very briefly, this discussion of Prime Minister's questions without noting Gordon Brown couldn't bring himself to use the phrase again. He turned it round. When he first talked about this, he said he wanted British workers to get into British jobs. It was a union conference many months ago. He then flipped it, and it became a much cruder slogan, which got him into trouble, which was British jobs for British workers. Okay. Now he's gone back again because I think he knows that it's causing real difficulty.
All right, Nick, thank you for that. Thank you all for that discussion. We'll leave it there, but I have a sense we'll be talking about this again next week.
Yeah.